In this video, we're going to be going through a polynomial review. Everything that I'm going to be talking about in this video should be review for you, but I'm going to start right from the beginning just to refresh your mind. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is what a term or a monomial is. So these are three examples of terms or monomials. They're called monomials because they're just one single term. So a term or monomial can contain numbers and variables. It could only contain variables too. It doesn't necessarily need to have a number, or it could only be numbers and doesn't need to have variables. A polynomial is formed by combining monomials through subtraction or addition. So everything that we do for the rest of this note is going to be based around polynomials. So a whole bunch of terms combined together. In order to be successful, I guess, in this chapter, you do need to have a strong understanding of what a like term is. So a like term has the same variable and the same exponent. So 5x squared and negative 3x squared are like terms. They both have x squareds in them. So this means that I could add them or subtract them. But if I look at the next example, 5x squared and negative 3x, these are not like terms. And they're not like terms because one of them has an x squared and one of them is just a single x. So I'm not able to do anything with these where I would need to have like terms. Polynomials can be simplified by combining like terms, adding or subtracting. So when I take a look at this example, if I asked you to simplify something like this, you would need to go through and you would need to pick out what your like terms were. So I'm going to highlight them and then I'll rewrite them. So first I have a 3x squared, and then I continue looking at 7x, a 5, a plus 4x squared. So the 3x squared and the 4x squared are like terms. So if I add those, I'm going to get 7x squared. Now notice when I highlighted the plus in front of the 4x squared. The sign in front of the term belongs with it. And you'll see what I'm talking about as I do the next example. So next I'm going to look at my x's. So I have a plus 7x and a minus 9x. If I have positive 7 subtract 9, I'm going to be left with a negative 2x. And then last but not least, I'm going to take care of just my numbers. So I have a negative 5 and a positive 2. And negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. I cannot go any further than this because none of these are like terms. I have a 7x squared, I have a negative 2x, and a negative 3. All right, so for example B, I see some brackets. So this first bracket, it doesn't even really need to be there. Nothing's changing. I'm just going to rewrite it. 5x squared minus 3x plus 2. And the second bracket, again, since it's a plus in front of it, it doesn't really need to be there either. It doesn't change anything. So a minus x squared plus 2x minus 3. I'm keeping all of the signs the same. I'm going to go through and do the exact same thing that I did last time, and if you don't have highlighters or if you don't want to use highlighters, you don't have to do this method. I just find that it's easiest to show for the visual learners. If you wanted to include an extra line right in here where you just rewrote the like terms together, I would be okay with that as well. If you just jump right to the answer without showing me how you're getting it at all and you make a mistake, it's really hard for me to give you part marks. So I'm going to highlight 5x squared. I'm going to look, the only other x squared I have is this negative x squared, and so that means that I'm going to be left with 5x squared, take away, this is an imaginary 1 here, so take away a 1x squared. That's going to leave me with 4x squareds. All right. Negative 3x plus 2x. So negative 3 plus 2 is going to leave me with a negative 1x. I'm going to put the 1 in there just for you, but you don't need it. I could have just wrote negative x. And then last but not least, plus 2 and take away 3. So 2 take away 3 is negative 1. Last example here. Again, this first bracket doesn't really mean anything to me. It's there just for no reason, I guess. But the second bracket has a minus sign in front of it. So this does change things. I have to subtract all of these terms. So I'm going to be subtracting this 3x squared. Then I'm going to be subtracting a 2x. And then I'm going to be subtracting a negative 5. So I have to include this. Now, if I didn't want to write this, instead of writing subtract negative 5, I could just write a plus 5. I'm okay with either. So basically what this is doing, this negative out front of this bracket, is it's changing all of the signs inside of this bracket. All right, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it quicker. I've got a 5x squared take away a 3x squared. That's leaving me with 2x squared. I have a negative 4x subtract 2x. Negative 4 subtract 2 is negative 6. And then I have a 2 plus 5, which is leaving me with 7. On top of adding and subtracting, we can multiply polynomials. In order to multiply a polynomial, we don't need like terms. So we can kind of forget that part for a little bit. We do need to remember exponent laws. There is a chapter where we're going to go through exponent laws in depth, but for now we're just going to use the basic ones. So x to the power of a times x to the power of b is x to the power of a plus b. Now I know that a lot of you probably don't like to hear the general form like that, so if I were to give you an example, and maybe I didn't leave enough room, let me see if I can move all this for you. There we go. I could write x squared times x cubed, and that would give me x to the 5. What I have to do is just simply add the 2 and the 3, or add my exponents. The second law that we are going to be using is x to the a to the b. This is called the power of a power rule. So again, if you don't like general form, if I had x squared and that was cubed, I would have to multiply these exponents. So that would be x to the 6. Now, if I think about what's happening here, x squared cubed means x squared times x squared times x squared. And so if I think back to the adding rule, I would be getting 2 and 2 and 2 added together to get that 6. So it's basically the exact same rule, just kind of a shortcut. All right, we're going to go through some examples here. So to multiply monomials, first multiply the numerical coefficients, so basically multiply the numbers, and then multiply the variables using the exponent laws. So this first one, 5x times 3x. So the first thing that I'm going to do is 5 times 3. That gives me 15. The next thing that I'm going to do is take a look at my variables. So x times x. If there is no exponent that you can see, we know that there's this imaginary 1. So x to the 1 times x to the 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. I'm going to take a look at this next one. Maybe I'll use a different color because it's too tight. I should have left some more space here. Negative 3a times 4b. Negative 3 times 4 is going to give me negative 12. And then a times b. Those variables are not the same, and so if I multiply a times b, I just get ab. Negative 9r squared times 3rs. So number times number, negative 9 times 3, that's negative 27. And then what I have here, maybe I'll use my highlighter, I've got r squared and a single r. So that means that I'm going to be left with r cubed. And then the only thing that I have left to do is take a look at this s, and it's my only one, so negative 27r cubed s. All right, last example here. This one is a little bit more tricky. I do have this negative 3xy cubed, and then all of that is squared. So I'm just going to do like a little aside here. Negative 3xy cubed, all of that is squared. This squared needs to go into every single term that I have if I'm going to be using the power of a power law. Or I could think about it like negative 3xy cubed times negative 3xy cubed times that negative 2x squared y. Now, this isn't bad. It's only a squared. I'm only rewriting that bracket one more time. If it was anything bigger, I wouldn't want to do that. So I'm going to take a look at my numbers first. I've got negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 2. That's going to give me 18. Then I'm going to take a look at my x's. So I've got x squared. That's going to leave me with x to the 4. And then I'm going to take a look at my y's. I've got y cubed, and y. That's going to leave me with y to the 7. 3 here, and then 1 more here.